Hi class, it's Miss Alva. Today we're going to talk about word problems, specifically word problems that have to do with multiplication and comparisons. We're going to be drawing equations and models and just practicing the skill so that we're very comfortable with it. You should have a piece of paper in front of you and it should say directions. For each word problem, write an equation and or draw a picture or model, then solve. I'm going to go ahead and say that you need to draw an equation and a model before you solve. So let's go ahead and look at our first problem. It says Ricky made 5 baskets in last week's basketball game. This week he made twice as many. How many baskets did Ricky make this week? All right, my first strategy is going to be to look for some important information. I see that it says this week he made twice as many. Okay, go ahead and underline or circle or highlight that phrase on your paper. What do you think this is telling me to do? I'm going to draw my model first. What do you think I'm going to draw? It says twice as many. So when I see the word twice, I think 2, right? So I'm going to start drawing 2 boxes, and you do that on your paper. Great. Next, I'm going to go back and look to see if I can fill in some more information on my model. Okay, it says Ricky made 5 baskets in last week's game, and this is this week. So we're talking about 2 different weeks. We're talking about this week, and we're talking about last week. Twice as many is referring to this week because it says this week he made twice as many. Okay, so twice as many is this week. And we also have last week. So I'm going to put last week down here. How many boxes would you say I need to draw in order to represent last week? Be careful, I don't want to draw 5 baskets because it doesn't say 5 times as many, right? It just says 5 baskets. So really, when we're doing our comparisons, I'm going to go ahead and draw 1 box to represent last week, and then 2 boxes to represent this week because this week is twice as many as last week. Here is where I'm going to go ahead and fill in my boxes. It says that Ricky made 5 baskets in last week's game. Okay, so I know I can put the number 5 to show that he made 5 baskets in last week's game. What do you think I'm going to put in these 2 empty boxes? Go ahead and do that on your paper. All right, if you put a 5, then you're absolutely correct because we're saying that last week he made 5, this week he made twice as much. So we want to double the 5, right? Make it twice as much. And it says, how many baskets did Ricky make this week? Well, this row stands for this week. So if I were to find the total for this week, I would have my answer. What is the total amount of baskets he made this week? I'm going to write the answer here. Go ahead and do that on your paper. If you said 10, you're correct. Where did I get that number? I added 5 plus 5, right? 5 plus 5 will give me 10. Now remember, we don't just need to draw a model. We also need to write an equation. So let's write our equation right next to it. Okay, let's go ahead and look for our unknown number first. Our unknown number is how many baskets did Ricky make this week? So N for this week, and then Ricky made 5 baskets in last week's game. This week he made twice as many. so N equals, and he made 5 baskets last week, but we want to find out what is twice as many. So our equation would be N equals 5 times 2. Where did I get the number 2 from? It's because it says this week he made twice as many. So I did 2 times 2. Where did I get the 5? Because he made 5 baskets in last week's game. And the N is our variable. It means we don't know what that number is yet, or we didn't when we first read our problem. It's how many baskets he made this week. So I know if I took last week's baskets, that's the 5, and multiply it by 2, because it says twice as many, I would get this week's baskets, which is my N. Okay? And I'm going to ask myself, what is 5 times 2? 10. So if I were to solve my equation, oops, I know that 10 equals 5 times 2, which is what we showed in our model, right? Because we said 5 plus 5 is 10, or 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 2 is 10. What's our answer? After doing all this work, we need to be careful that we actually answer the problem. So what would our answer be? Well, it's asking us how many baskets did Ricky make this week? Where could I find our answer? Right here. This week he made 10 baskets total. So our final answer once we make our model and write our equation is 10 baskets. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start by setting you up with the model. Then you can press pause and fill it in. If you would like to challenge yourself, you can press pause now and see if you can build the model on your own. If not, that's okay. Sometimes we need some practice, so you decide. You can either pause or I can give you a little hint to get started. Okay, it says in this week's soccer game, Julie played 3 times the number of minutes she played in last week's game. If she played 18 minutes this week, how many minutes did she play last week? Again, we're talking about this week and last week, right? So we have this week and we have last week. These are the 2 weeks that we're talking about. And then the first thing I look for is the word times, because that's going to tell me how many boxes to draw in the first row or the second row, depending on what I'm looking at. So can you find the word times in the problem? It says Julie played 3 times the number of minutes she played in last week's game, right? So in this week's soccer game, she played 3 times the number. So we're going to put 3 boxes. Where do you think? Up here or down here? Up here, right? Because it says in this week's soccer game, she played 3 times. So we're going to draw our 3 boxes to represent 3 times. Okay, and because we're comparing this week to last week, what am I going to draw down here? Just the 1 box. Because it says that when we compare this week's soccer game to last week's soccer game, it's 3 times, which means this should have 1 box and this should have 3 times what this one has. We're comparing. Okay. Go ahead and see if you can fill in the rest of this diagram. I'm going to go ahead and give you just one more clue. Okay. It says if she played 18 minutes this week, how many minutes did she play last week? Okay, be careful because they're asking you if she played 18 minutes total this week. It doesn't say total, but it's implying it. Okay, we have to kind of read between the lines if she played 18 minutes this week. So really we're looking for that number to help us out. What would that what would we put here, and what would we put in each of these boxes. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can figure it out. Okay, welcome back. So we were trying to decide what to put here, right? So if she played 18 minutes this week, how many minutes did she play last week? So this 18 would go up here because it's telling us that she played 18 minutes total this week. Okay, and our question is, how many minutes did she play last week? So really they're asking us to find out what should go in this box for last week. What number could you put in here 3 times? That would, when I add them together, would give me 18. Pause if you need a little help or a little time to solve. Another way to think of this is we could write an equation to kind of help us out, right? So we have last week. How many minutes did she play last week? So that's our unknown number. So that would be n. We don't know how many she played last week. Okay. And then she played 3 times the number of minutes she played in last week's game. So we know that n times 3, because it says 3 times, equals, the total would be 18. So times 3, which is our 3 boxes, n would be the number that we don't know, right? Equals, when I add these together, I'm going to get 18, or when I multiply by 3, I'm going to get 18. So what number, 3 times what number would give us 18? If you said 6, you're absolutely correct. If I put 6 in here, add them all up, I would get 18. Or if I put 6 down here in my equation, and then multiply by 1, 2, 3, that would give me 18. Okay, and because it's a comparison, I know that if these are all 6, then this down here needs to be 6 as well. We put the same number that we put in the top in here. So let's answer the question. How many minutes, let me get my highlighter here, how many minutes did she play last week? 6. 6 minutes is our answer. Oh, we don't want it that big. Hold on. Did you get it correct? Again, if you'd like to challenge yourself and you want to press pause and try to answer this on your own, remember I need a model and I need an equation and then I need an answer. Okay, why don't you try? And then if you need to press play for a little guidance, you can press play. Okay guys, so let's take a look. It says in today's basketball game, Ella made 4 times the number of baskets that Kay made. If Ella made 12 baskets, how many did Kay make? This time we're not talking about this week or last week. We have 2 players. We have Ella and we have Kay. So when I do my model, I'm going to label Ella and I'm going to label Kay. Remember, the first thing I need to decide is how many boxes to draw. So I look for what word? The word times. It says Ella made 4 times the number of baskets that Kay made. How many boxes are you going to draw for Ella? 4, because it says 4 times, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And because we're comparing, I know I need to draw just 1 box because Ella made 4 times as many as Kay. Okay? Is that what your model looks like so far? If so, good job. Now we need to look at the rest of the information. So let's look. It says, if Ella made 12 baskets, how many did Kay make? So we don't know how many Kay made. How many did Kay make? So that's the question. So that's N in there to show that we don't know. N is our variable, our mystery number. We're trying to figure that out. And where would the 12 baskets go? Would it go inside each of these boxes? Or is it talking about the total amount that Ella made? It's talking about the total because it says if Ella made 12 baskets, so this is all the baskets that Ella made, how many did Kay make? So N is our number that we don't know. We don't know what goes in here. Okay? So I could finish by answering the model, but let's write our equation. Well, let's see. I know my total is 12, right? So I could put equals 12 since that is my total. And then how many times am I repeating the variable N? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 times, which matches up here, right? So we know it's times 4. And we are adding N 4 times, or multiplying by 4, so we would put N. So here's our equation. N times 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, equals 12. So now I can either solve using our model or solve using our equation. So let's start with our equation. What number times 4 will give us 12? I hope you said 3. 3 times 4 would give us 12. Okay? And another way to think of it is, what number could I put in here that when I add all together will give me 12? We answered it already, didn't we? We said 3 times 4 is 12. So if I put the number 3 and I add that together, 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, my answer would be 12. And because I have 3 up here, and it's a comparison, I know that this is also going to be 3. Okay, now that we've filled in our model, we've written our equation and solved, let's go back and see what it's actually asking us. It says, if Ella made 12 baskets, which we have here in our model, how many did Kay make? How many did she make? And that's the answer. She made 3 baskets. All right, boys and girls, hopefully you got that correct. For this last one, I'm going to have you work this out on the back of your paper. I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to get you started, but I think I'm going to let you complete the whole thing on your own to see if you can solve it. Be careful. Really look at what it's asking you. It says Jace and Mel had candies. Mel had 4 times as many candies as Jace. If Jace had 3 candies, how many candies did they have all together? The 2 people that we are comparing are Jace and Mel. So we would write Jace and Mel. Okay, so that's my hint, that's my clue. Can you draw a model to show what's happening up here and solve the problem? Go ahead and press pause, and when you're ready to look for the answer, you can press play. Welcome back. Here is my model, my equation, and my answer. Does yours match mine? I hope it does. I started off with writing Jace and Mel to show that those are the 2 people I'm comparing. I looked for the number 4 times. Mel had 4 times, so I drew 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes. Then it said Jace had 3 candies, so I drew 1 box for Jace because I'm comparing, and I put the number 3 to show that Jace had 3 candies. But then it went a little different than what we're used to, right? So if we put the number 3 here, that tells me because we're comparing, I need to put the number 3 in all of these boxes. Finally, the question said, how many candies did they have all together? So I knew I had to find the total of Jace and Mel. So I added all of these up and I got 15 as my total. My equation was 3, because that's the number in the boxes, times 5, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, I'm looking at all of these boxes, equals n, because I didn't know what the answer was. The answer was how many candies did they have all together. So that would be my unknown number, my mystery number, my variable. Then I solved 3 times 5 equals 15. My answer is 15 candies. If you got it correct, congratulations. That was a tricky one. Now, boys and girls, because I want you to be very comfortable with these models, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. I don't want you to write it on your paper, but just kind of answer me in your head, right? So, what if the question asked? Well, let me move this down first just a little bit. Okay, what if the question, this final question here, what if it didn't say this? What if it said, how many candies did Mel have? What would you say? Three plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, or 3 times 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 equals n, and I know 3 times 4 is 12, so I know that Mel has 12 candies, right? 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 12, and we would put it here at the bottom to show that this is the total for Mel. What if I said, how many candies does Jace have? Where would you put it, and what would the answer be? That one's a little easier, right? Jace has 3 candies. What if I said, how many more candies does Mel have than Jace? How many more candies does Mel have than Jace? I'll give you a hint. Mel has how many candies? 12. Jace has how many candies? 3. So how many more candies does Mel have than Jace? How many more means subtraction. I would take the total that Mel has and subtract the total that Jace has. And our answer would be 9. Mel has 9 more candies than Jace. And the great thing is, if I were to look at my model, this is the same, right? They both have the 3. How many more candies does she have? 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 9. See how our model also shows that? She has 9 more than Jace has. What if I asked you, how many candies did they have together? Where would you put it? Do you remember where it was? Together goes on the side. And what's our answer? 15. You would add all these. The more comfortable you are with answering these kinds of questions and really understanding where you would put these, the better you're going to be at solving these word problems. Boys and girls, I will see you next time. Thank you so much for doing math with me.